Megan.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. It's nice to see you again.
I know. It's nice to see you too.
Thanks. So I know we had talked a little bit about maybe doing a part two. There's a lot of stuff we probably didn't get to the first time. What do you
Yeah.
think? Anything you want to start with?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I mean, because I feel like, I know we covered a lot, but then when I think about it, it's like we can go deeper into, we could probably have hours and hours of
Yeah.
conversation about this.
It's a really
I think
complex topic for sure.
it is, and I think a lot of people don't like to talk about the ugly that comes with being a fire spouse. And I mean, the ugly could be, you put on a fake face of whether it be someone's cheating in the relationship or you're struggling mentally, your partner's struggling mentally, the kids. And I'm kind of at the point where I don't want to be quiet about anybody's struggles because I know I'm not the only one who's struggling. And I know there's other people that are struggling. And it's kind of like if someone doesn't start talking about it, nobody will.
Right. Right.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, why are we pretending that none of this is going on?
Yeah.
Why do we
Yeah.
pretend that, oh, I'm a fire wife. Everything is absolutely peachy perfect, all butterflies and rainbows. Everything is absolutely fabulous. And sure, sometimes it is, but it's not.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very brave of you to start the conversation and to want to talk about it because obviously there could be, it's a sensitive topic, right? And not everybody wants to open up like that for other people to know about it. But also, people are probably afraid to talk about it,
Oh, yeah.
afraid of the consequences on your relationship or the consequences with your friends. And so I think it's really brave of you to want to do it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, you know, nobody ever wants to validate the stereotypes of, a certain job type. But let's just face it, that's just sometimes that is the reality
Right.
of things.
Yeah.
So it's like, what, hey, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Sounds like you've been on the receiving end of that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, I'm not everyone does, you try to paint this picture perfect image on the outside, but sometimes at home it's things may not be so perfect or they weren't, maybe they're good now, but maybe they weren't always good,
Hmm.
and being around, being with my husband and then being around just some other fire service guys, you're kind of like, wait a minute, you have a wife or that you had a girlfriend. Why are you,
Hmm.
in another town, not being faithful when you should be?
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it's hard to speak up because one, if I don't know the person, I'm not going to say anything because you never know who you're talking to. So you kind of just mind your business and keep your mouth shut and hope that you don't ever see the girlfriend or the wife.
Yeah.
Because when I say the whole girl thing, if I know, you're gonna know.
There's a culture in the fire service that even if your colleagues know, they don't tell,
Yeah.
right? Even
Yep.
though they know the families and they know the spouses and everything, which is, I mean, it's really difficult.
Oh yeah. Especially when they're so nice to your face and then come to find out, they were in on this whole big secret and you just feel like you got stabbed in the back by not only your partner, not only from your husband, but from one, two, three, four, depending on, however many are around, however many knew,
Right.
that's in addition to your spouse, you know, let's just even say two other people stabbed you in the back
Right.
because they acted like everything was fine
Yeah.
or they covered up for that. And it's really sad, it's heartbreaking, because I have been in that situation, way back when my husband and I, we first started dating. And it was one of those, like, they're all on dating sites, and, they're gone out of county for 3 weeks at a time, and they just get bored, I guess, or, they need some other excitement. Like the fire isn't enough for them. So they need to, have conversations with other women. And it's heartbreaking. I can say, not that he ever met up with anybody, but, kind of even just the conversations, that's still, I mean, some people like, oh, well, nothing physical happened. That's not cheating. And that's fine. That's good for you. Not everybody's the same. For some people, cheating is just, it starts with a conversation, and that's enough to end a relationship right there for some people.
Yeah, it's the emotional piece that is equally important.
Yeah, they're supposed to be your safe space, and they're supposed to be, that's supposed to be your person right there. And then they go and they stab you in the back. And
Yeah. Did it go on for a long time?
a little while. Sometimes I'm a little embarrassed to admit how long it really went on. I will say it went on longer than it should have, but it was one of those. I wish I kind of, if I would have put my foot down a lot sooner, it would have ended sooner. But I would believe that, okay, it's not going to happen again. Oh, it's not going to happen again. Oh, nothing can happen. It's just a conversation. And, sometimes I don't want to say you're blinded by love, or sometimes it's just stupidity. But
I don't know if it's stupidity. It's maybe
yeah,
you might want to call it hope, right? Hope that
yeah,
it's going to be different or that it's going to be good.
yeah. And it's just, you hold on to that hope of, I'm not going to do it again. Oh, I'm going to change. And you hope and hope and hope. You hope and pray, and you're like, oh, okay. And finally I was like, I'm not enough. You want to do this? Fine. Bye. Go have your fun. Had zero contact. I didn't have any contact. Did not respond for, it was like 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not saying this works in every situation, but for him, it was the wake up call of like, oh, shit, like I'm going to lose her. And I will say I'm thankful it was in the beginning of our relationship, to where we were able to repair things, at least in our case. And I get not everybody's the same, but some people like would argue like, oh, well, if it was that early in your relationship, it would have been much easier to just pack your bags and, say goodbye, cut your ties. But I don't know, it was one of those, I held on, I held on to that hope, and things are great. Things turned out great.
Are you happy that you did?
Yes, definitely. I would say it wasn't easy. Of course it wasn't easy, and it took a lot of, I held resentment. Even though I said I was over it, I held resentment for a few years. And it's one of those things where it was kind of like, okay, I'm choosing to be with this person. I cannot continue to hold the past and hold a grudge against the past. I don't have to necessarily forget what happened, but if I am going to forgive and be with him, then I need to fully commit on the forgiving part. You can't just partially forgive. It definitely would have you don't have to, again, you don't have to forget it, but forgiving completely is the only way to move on truly and fully.
How long had you been together when this happened?
It's actually kind of started, it started like right away. It started early on, and it probably continued for the first few months of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Let's even just call it a year, just to give a little extra, but maybe like for the first year, and it wasn't continuous. It'd be something small here and something small there, and it's like, okay, like, and I will say, I guess for me, it's like I'm thankful nothing physical like that had gone on, but even just the emotional toll it can take on somebody, I'm supposed to be trusting you with, with my heart, and here you are seeking validation from somebody else who you say you have no intention of talking to again. And, for me, that was the case, but it's still hard.
Yeah.
It's still really hard.
Was it one person or multiple people?
There's multiple people,
Yeah. And
unfortunately.
everybody knew at the firehouse?
There were a couple. He was really good at keeping it quiet, except for the couple of other guys that were into the same thing, or the single guys that, even to this day, want nothing to do with the relationship. So, and when I did go and visit, it was one of those, like, you could, I knew something was up before I really knew something was going on.
How?
Just by the way, a couple of the guys just, oh, hey, how are you? We haven't seen you in a while. And I'm like, yeah, I don't come to this station because we've only been together for, less at this, at this point, less than a year. I'm not, that's, to me, that wasn't a boundary I wanted to go to. Or, like, I had met them out, if we went out, they went out outside of work. I had met a few of them, or, FaceTime, they were always in the call, like, oh, hey, how you doing? So I was like, oh, I thought you guys had my back, but guess not.
Did you ever say anything to any of them?
No. For me, that's something that my husband had to handle, because again, for me, those are his coworkers. And I think in this type of job, any job really, but this job in particular, I feel like you have to be even more careful with what is said, especially as a wife, or even, or, long-term partner, spouse, whatever. I think it's harder to say something. I didn't want to be seen as too emotional or too disrespectful, especially if, somebody ended up promoting higher up, and it's like, oh, okay, well, now I still have to deal with you for the next 40 years of my life, and now you're a captain now, or
Mm-hmm.
battalion chief.
Do you think you would have been able to move on in a healthier or better way had you said something to them?
Me, in the way that I work, yes, but I had to have those conversations to those people with my husband. It was That was the way I got it out, because I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't talk to them, even though I wanted to. Two of the guys I did get an apology from
Wow.
a few years later, but better late than never.
Yeah. That must have been an awkward conversation. Like, what did they just come up to you and be like, by the way,
Basically, it
my
was kind
bad?
of, yeah, that's basically how it was. It was like, hey, sorry about when this happened. It's like, thanks,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it was kind of, and like one of them was, I was kind of like, yeah, I could have said something that day,
Mm-hmm.
but it's, it is what it is, I mean, I shouldn't say it like that, but it's something I moved on from, and it is
Mm-hmm.
kind of hard to talk about, and it is awkward to talk about, because but sometimes that's just the reality of, not everyone in the fire service is a cheater, but it kind of happens a lot more than people like to admit.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be one time, whether it be full blown physical, or whether it just be, a short conversation of a couple hours emotionally with somebody. That's still, again, depending on who the person is, that's still cheating. And
For sure.
sometimes I will say, like, sometimes these guys get such big egos because of their job, They'll be like, "Oh, I'm a hero. I save everybody's life." And it's like, well, yeah, but not when you have that mentality.
Yeah. I mean, they are heroes, right? But that doesn't
Oh yeah,
change your relationship. That should have no impact on your
no,
marriage or your relationship with the other person. That's a separate part of life.
yeah, and it's you can't when you there's just the few that like to use that as their what's the word I'm looking for? Just their validation in what they're
Mhm.
doing.
Do you
So
still know of a lot of people who are doing that right now? A lot of guys who are cheating?
I will say I don't hear about it only because I know that, my husband, he had separated himself from the guys who were doing that. And the ones that I do know now, the majority of them are married long term, happily, like, I mean, extremely happily. Like, you'll hear them just talk about their wives, like nonstop, and you can tell like there's a difference between the ones who rant and rave emotionally and lovingly about their wives versus the ones who are married but never ever mention their wives.
Hmm. That's interesting. Do you think your husband would tell you if he knew
Oh
somebody
yeah,
was cheating? He would.
I think he would
Mm.
only because after having the conversations with him, it kind of made him realize that one, that it is wrong, but two, that it's not as cool, I guess. That's the only way I can try to say it. It's not as cool as some people try to make it out to be. And
Mhm.
we're as we are getting older. He doesn't really conversate unless it's work with the younger guys.
Mhm.
And I think maybe if he did, he would maybe hear more. But now he doesn't involve himself in too much home life unless he knows that they're in a long-term committed relationship.
Mhm. Do you think really that you would tell a spouse if you knew her partner was cheating on her?
If I knew her and if I met her at least once and had a conversation with her, I know it would be hard to you hear from this random woman like, "Oh, hey, just an FYI, your husband's cheating on you or your boyfriend's cheating on you." Most they're like, "Okay, well, where's your proof?" But then you
Right.
don't want to cause conflict at work between anybody. But it would have for me as much as a girl's girl that I am, work wise, I would have to know the girl or again met her at least once and had a conversation with her.
Yeah.
But I know, feeling guilty of like, man, I wish I could tell you. I wish I knew how to tell you without, causing workplace drama. And I think that's where a lot of the I'm even just gonna go here and say bro code of not saying anything is they don't want the workplace drama.
Yeah. But I mean, you could argue that like you wouldn't be the one causing the workplace drama. It would be
Yeah.
them by cheating,
Yeah. And
right?
it's I think so. I think for me too, it's I've seen, and I think it's because I've seen the way some women can get so defensive when they know that their husband is cheating and they blame it on everybody around or even like the
Mhm.
other woman. Let's just say, and put in the situation the woman has no idea that he's married.
Mm.
It's she's, some are will blame the woman before they blame their husband.
Right. Right. But
And
it's clearly
that's
the husband's fault. How did it come up with you and your husband? How did you find out? Like, how did it all happen?
Notification popped up on his phone, and I was like, "Who's that?" Just had a feeling, like you kind of just knew something was off. I don't know. I'm a really good vibe person. I'm really good at picking up on people's vibes,
Hmm.
and it was kind of like, "Hey, something's not right," And again, notification popped up on his phone. And I was like, "Who's that?" And then it was like the guilty look of nothing,
Uh-huh.
no one, work. Yeah, okay.
And
That was
how
hard.
long were you suspicious?
Honestly, looking back, it was I probably knew longer than what I really want to admit.
Hmm.
It was probably one of those, but to me at the same time, my defense was, well, this is a new relationship. I was coming out of a previous marriage that I got married young, and just, you know, getting back into the dating life and, being in an actual, like a real relationship. Everything was new to me. So I kind of just played it off as nervousness
Hmm.
of, being in a relationship. Yeah.
How did you get through it? I mean, that's huge.
Lots and lots of letting myself be angry, and a lot of, I'd be lying if I said I didn't hold it over his head for a while, because I did. I was still angry. I went to therapy, and I love my therapist. She's been with me for years.
Hmm.
I had to go to therapy. And that was where I was able to fully process it, because I was embarrassed to tell family. I was embarrassed to tell friends. I told one friend, and this friend, she never turned on me, and always kept it to herself, never told, well, it's her husband now, but at the time, boyfriend. But it was embarrassing to try to talk to somebody who knew me and, personally. So my therapist got it all. And, I, we had, yeah, therapy, lots and lots of therapy. And again,
Hmm.
like I held it over his head for a while, and it kind of, for me, like that was healing for me. That was part of the healing process. Definitely like, and it's kind of feel guilty when I held it over his head, but it was definitely a topic of conversation that I would throw in his face. And then I realized, okay, that was when I realized, if I need to, yes, I've forgiven him, but if I need to fully forgive him, and if I'm going to be able to be happy in this relationship, I need to fully forgive absolutely everything. And it's still an uncomfortable conversation 7, 8 years later, you know, but that's just, I'll kind of joke with people that are close, like, well, that's just my story. That's part of our story. And those who know me, they know, like, I do have a really dark sense of humor. So jokes like that, they know it's kind of, oh yeah, that bothers her a little bit, but
Yeah.
you know,
How can it not? Of course it bothers you.
yeah, it's definitely a big sense of betrayal for
Hmm.
sure. But I mean, if again, everyone's different. And I like to try to think about everybody else too. Like, but if you can't forgive it fully, then what are you doing? You just, and to build that trust back, you have to give them the opportunity to be trusted again. As much as like your trust is broken and as hard it is to trust that person ever again, if you keep them on a leash, you're more than likely going to drive them to go and do it again. So, and building that trust, it was so hard. So hard.
Do you feel like you have that trust again, like 100%, or do you still doubt?
Well, I would like to say I have a full 100% trust, but I do find myself having moments of not necessarily not trusting him. It's kind of a weird way to explain it, but I don't think he would ever do that again, ever. But I do have these moments where it's like, oh, like, what would that situation be like? And I don't know if you've seen the whole trend of these other women trying to, they're showing up at firehouses saying they want a tour in the middle of the night and they want to bake cookies and they want to lay in their beds. They want to see the barracks. They want to wear their turnouts. They want to sit in the engine. And it's becoming this huge, huge thing. Yeah,
What?
yes, it's one of those like, oh, like, are you serious? It's kind of a, call me bitter, call me jealous, call me whatever you want, but it's one of those, it's like, as a woman, don't be disrespectful. I mean, sure, I don't know, it's weird. It's one of those, like, again, dumb trends that I'm seeing more and more like pop up on my page on Instagram. And I'm like, why?
So
Like, why?
women are going to firehouses and recording themselves doing this?
Yes.
To
Yeah.
what end? Like if you're putting it on social media, what are you getting out of it?
Yeah. I don't, no idea. I don't know. I don't know if it's a lot of the, again, I've seen so many different videos, and some of them are looking for a firefighter for a husband, or come with me to try to meet the love of my life, or come with us to take cookies to a firehouse at 10 o'clock at night.
Does that ever work?
I don't know. I'm
I
like,
mean, it can't.
I'd like to think that that I hope not, and I saw there was one in particular where one of the girls was on the beds, and that video I decided,
That's
like, you know what,
so gross. I don't even think people recognize how disgusting those
yeah,
beds are. Ew,
no,
I would never like sit on
yeah,
one of them.
yeah, no. And I decided that was the one. I started to look through the comments, and the amount of defense, I guess, that the ones who made the video, they're like, oh, it's just bitter fire wives knowing that they're gonna get cheated on, or that that they
What?
would love to have somebody better. Or so I wish I would have screenshotted some of the comments, because it was one of those, are you kidding me? Like, you're really going to validate this is why, or you're bitter because your husband is cheating on you, or this is why cheating rates are so high. And it's like, yeah, because a lot of it is the defensive. They want somebody younger, they want somebody who's like this, they want somebody who's willing to go to the firehouse. And it's like, do you realize half the time, depending on your department, half the time we're not even allowed to go there, or we're
Yeah.
only allowed certain visiting hours, and here you are, because you're part of the public, you're wanting to say you get to go and see firemen because you want to bring them cookies. Like, it's insane. It's
It
insane to me.
is. Wow. I have not heard of that. To be
Yeah.
fair, I'm not huge on social media, so maybe that's why, but I had not heard of that.
Yeah.
That's like devastating that people
It
do
is.
that.
It really is, because I have those moments where I'm like, wow, and even if it's not, my husband's station, it's all, other stations that I've seen. It's like, wow, you're getting to go to the station when there's probably a wife at home who has not seen her husband in 2 weeks.
Hmm. Right.
So it's one of those, like, oh, like, are you kidding me? Like, here we go. Let's feed in more to this whole fire spouses, the fire service are cheaters, and
Yeah.
let's validate that some more.
Yeah. That's pretty horrible.
It is. It's not fun to see.
Do you ever talk to your husband about it now?
No, no.
Does he know you're talking to me about it?
Actually, he does. I kind of told him, and I kind of got that look of not not necessarily shame, but he was like, well, he goes, somebody's got to speak the truth sometimes, and for him,
Wow.
it kind of made me want to cry. It kind of makes me want to cry, like saying it now, too. I think, for him, it was kind of like that realization. And even to this day, like, even though we don't ever bring it up. I mean, hardly ever does it ever come up, but a lot of it comes up from him of, you know, I wish I wouldn't have done that to you.
Mhm.
Or, I regret, doing that to you. So it's kind of like, well, he goes, someone's going to say it. And he goes, I figured you'd probably be the one to start the conversation. I was like, hey, I
Right.
said, where people, other spouses, that they're not alone in the
Hmm.
situation, you
Hmm.
know, and it's okay to admit that these things have happened, you
Right.
know, like,
And it's okay to say that I forgave him. Right.
yeah, there isn't anything wrong with it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's your choice. That's not anybody else's choice, but my own or
Right.
your
Like,
own.
but not even just that, this whole concept of like shame for having been cheated on. You're not the one who did it,
Yeah.
right? The people who did it should be ashamed. And it sounds like your
Mhm.
husband regrets it,
Oh yeah.
you know? So I agree with you. I think, of course, it's brave because people do feel that way, but they shouldn't. And maybe talking about it would make it so that this whole cheating thing is not such a popular thing in the fire service.
It would be nice, for anybody involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let the stereotypes go away.
Is that something that had happened to you before your husband?
Cheating?
Hmm.
No. I got married young. I got
Hmm.
pregnant at the end of my senior year of high school,
Hmm.
and I wasn't even I wasn't with him for, very long before I got pregnant. And it was, when you're young, you think you know everything. I was newly 18, so I was an adult. I knew
Hmm.
everything.
Right.
I wasn't a kid anymore. I was 18, I was an adult. Yeah, okay.
Right.
I was raised, I wouldn't say in a strict home of you marry who you have a family with, but it was something that was still like instilled to me. Like, where, okay, if you're having, this is gonna be somebody that you're having babies with, this is who you marry.
Hmm.
And I went to this whole argument with my parents, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, you don't have to marry somebody. And I'm like, well, what do I do? I'm pregnant. I'm 18. I'm about to graduate high school. I have these whole this everything just got thrown onto me at once.
Right.
And that was really my only relationship for a long time. And I dated after I got divorced, after the separation and the divorce. I dated, but I never committed myself to a relationship. I was strictly like, hey, I just I just got out of, a marriage. I have two
Hmm.
kids. I don't want a relationship right now because I lost my youth. I lost my youth. And so my husband was actually the first person I was in a relationship with
Hmm.
after
Which
after my
is
divorce.
just so difficult to go into that and then have that
Yeah,
happen to you.
yeah, yeah.
Makes you
But
really lose your faith for a minute.
it did. Oh, it definitely did. It was one of those like, oh, okay, this is what life is gonna be like. Then, I remember even telling him, I was like, this is what dating's supposed to be like. If this is what a relationship is supposed to be like, I don't want this. Like,
Right.
I'll be single for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But again, that was me being a little dramatic and
I don't think so. I don't think so.
coping in the way that I do.
Yeah.
But I am
How long do
glad
you feel like it took you to get to the point where you could put it behind you?
until it was fully behind me. It took me about a year, maybe a year and a half,
Hmm.
until I was completely not triggered by it anymore. And that's a long time, especially in a new relationship.
Hmm.
That's the beginning stages. It kind of feels like an eternity. It feels like it flies by, but it also feels like an eternity.
Right.
I don't know. At least like for me, it's like you're learning so much in such a short amount of time about somebody, and the first couple years, really, you don't know the person.
Right.
And so it took about a year and a half until I was no longer triggered
Hmm.
by the cheating. So even sometimes like I'll bring it up as a joke, like, oh, you can cheat on me, and it's probably again dark humor.
Right.
That's the way I cope about it. And I I've only said it a couple of times because I
Hmm.
learned not to say it because
Because he
I
gets
learned
it.
it. Yes,
Yeah.
I learned that it hurts him for me to say that.
Yeah. I mean,
And, I'm like, well, you hurt me. So,
right. Right. But at some point, it's time to stop hurting each other.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so it's something I don't say anymore. But I will say that was a long year and a half of healing.
Hmm.
I had moments where I was like, oh, yeah, I'm over it. I'm fine. I'm fine. And something I would see something or hear about someone or, whoever's cheating on whoever. And then it would reopen those old wounds for me until I realized that, and it was my therapist. She's like, well, you have two options. You can forgive and walk away, or you can forgive and continue to forgive. She goes, don't forget, but you have to forgive him, not just the situation.
Right.
And that was kind of the reality of realizing there are different levels of forgiveness when it comes to cheating.
Mm.
You think you're over it, but you have to fully commit to being over it, or else you won't be.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really hard. Do you feel like it has affected your kids in any way?
They don't know.
I don't know.
So my boys, they were around. They did question why, in the beginning stages of my healing process, I did limit the amount of time he spent with them.
Sure.
So for me, it was easy to say, "Oh, he's at work," because they knew his job took him away, and they were younger at the time. They were much younger at the time, so it was easy to say he was at work. To this day, they don't know. And then we didn't have our kids together yet, our two. So it was, and I don't think I wouldn't ever. I don't know. I know some couples tell their kids
Mm.
about infidelity, but I don't. I mean, to each their own. But I don't think I would want to let them know.
I'm not sure I would either, I guess, if I were in that position. I mean, it would just impact their relationship with their
Yeah,
dad.
yeah. So it's one of them. Like, oh, they don't need to know about it.
Right. Because it's not about them, right? It's
It's
between
about
you
us.
two. Yeah.
Yep.
I never really thought about it, but I think I can safely assume you've never cheated.
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Do
Nope.
you think he would have forgiven you if you had?
I think he would. And I think he would have, because in a conversation, it was a lot of, I don't deserve you. I don't deserve your forgiveness. If you were to go out, and he was speaking out of emotion too. It was like, if you would go out and, do the same to me, then, I would deserve it.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I could go and do the same thing, but what's that going to do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
It's not a
I'm not,
healthy
and but
way to.
it's also, but also in my personality, that's not something I can just go and do. You know,
Yeah. Do you think about it a lot?
I don't. I have moments where it'll come up, like again with seeing the videos on social media. or if it comes up in, if I hear, someone I know going through with their, being cheated on or anything, I think about it. And it's hard to, because I'm the type of person that if somebody I know is going through a situation, that's when I'll kind of open up and say, hey, this is my story.
Okay.
I'm very, not in the sense of, hey, this is mine. Let me try to one up you in the story.
Right.
I'm the, hey, I want you. I think because in this whole thing of opening up about the cheating or, anything about this is I, I personally like to know that I'm not the only one.
Right.
So if
You're not
I can
alone.
help somebody that I know, or maybe even somebody I don't know, somebody random. If I'm sitting at the bar having a conversation with some girl who just got dumped by her boyfriend, I like to have the conversations with somebody to let them know that they aren't alone.
Yeah.
Because it is nice to feel that you're not alone. And to me, that's I think that's like my life's motto is, like you're not alone.
Hmm.
There's always somebody out there that can relate with you. And sometimes you just have to, and sometimes talking to that person kind of helps heal you in a way, helps heal that little bit of grief or, whatever's going on.
Yeah. I mean, being open to talk about this is a huge thing,
Yeah.
right? Both for firewives, but just in general. You're talking about anybody who's been through it, you share that about yourself. And I think it's generous. I don't even know what other word to use. It's generous of you to share that with people so that they recognize that it happens,
Yeah.
right? And these things happen, and whatever you choose to do about it is okay.
Yeah. And, whether you forgive them or you don't forgive them, it's everybody, that's okay,
Right.
but it's a lot of, you kind of hear little bits and pieces of, oh, I was cheated on, or I was, early in his career, I was cheated on. It's like, yeah, that seems to be a pattern, and it's okay to, I don't want to say it's okay to quote unquote normalize it because that's kind of what we've done
Mhm.
as society. Like we've kind of normalized the cheating, the stereotype. But again, kind of saying that it's okay to normalize it for yourself if you choose to forgive. If it happened
Right.
to you and you choose to forgive it,
Right.
like
Like,
not
don't hold
necessarily,
it against yourself.
yes, and it, yeah, it's okay to forgive. And it's okay to forgive and walk away. It's okay to
Hmm.
forgive and stay.
Hmm.
Everyone is different. But being able to talk about what goes on or being able to talk about the ugly side of being a fire spouse should be normalized a lot more.
Hmm.
Like we already have to stay strong at home, taking care of the kids, taking care of the house. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom or you work full-time, part-time, whatever, or stay-at-home wife, whatever you are, going to school to better your career, you know, we we hold it down at home, and we're already doing a lot.
Hmm.
So we need to be able to say like, hey, like, yeah, I'm holding everything down at home, but also like, I'm not okay because of, X, Y, and Z is going on, or it's okay to talk about infidelity.
Hmm.
It's okay to talk about mental health issues. It's okay to talk about how the kids are quite literally losing their minds because they miss dad.
Hmm.
It's okay to talk about those things. You see these, other women who, what, sometimes I think these women do have picture perfect lives and good for you, but my life is not picture perfect. It's full of chaos, as you can hear, and I think I'm talking about, now here I go again about like normalizing things. Like that's what needs to be normalized is the
Yeah.
chaos. Like if I had a GoPro and filmed every day of my life, I everyone would be so entertained.
Do you really
It's
think anyone actually has a picture perfect life?
I'm gonna say no, but I will say maybe there are the some that in the rare cases that do have that picture perfect life, you know? And okay, maybe not picture perfect, but everyone's chaos and everyone's life does look different.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm at the point where I'm like, let's normalize the mom who works full time and has to come home and take care of four kids at home. And let's normalize that chaos versus, the mom that has everything put together. Like, cool, good for you that you can get off of work and then come home and cook a 5-course meal for your kids and then get everybody to bed on time. Good for you because like, what are you doing?
I have
Because I
never met a person who can do that.
can't.
That's, I think, you have to prioritize some parts of life. And if your priority is to get your kids to bed on time, then other things have to wait. So the house is probably a mess. Or if you prioritize the house being neat, then you probably don't have time to have fun or whatever the case is. Like something's got to give. It's not possible.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right about that.
It's just not possible. I don't think like, there are 24 hours in a day. And theoretically, 8 of them are for sleeping.
Oh, yeah, life is just full of chaos.
Yeah. What else do you think is part of this ugly side?
Oh, goodness. The mental health. That is something I will stand up and say is like, I will scream it from a mountaintop, like, get the help you need. They run some of these calls that are so intense, and yes, that's part of the job. Okay, this is the job, this is what you're getting into. It's like, well, yeah, but seeing, you know, I don't want, not that I want to get dark, but seeing a deceased child is,
Mhm.
I don't think ever gets any easier for them,
It can't.
and it numbs them.
Right.
They try to say, oh, it's part of the job, it's part of the job. Like that's always the defense. It's all part of the job. And it's like, well, yeah, it's part of the job, but now you aren't the same person as you were before. Now you're distant and cold, and I think it's hard. And I know they're supposed to be, you know, manly, a manly man, or manly men, and you know, deal with it because it's part of the job. And it's okay to get the help that you need. It's okay to talk to somebody about it. It's you can't hold things inside of you. And even yet you can talk about it, with your coworkers. They ran the same call as you. So yeah, you can talk about it with them, but are you having like a true productive conversation about it? Or are you saying, yeah, this sucks, didn't want to see that, time to go on to the next call? And I feel like that's what, and on shift, that is completely fine to do because you can't,
Of course.
they can't sit there and dwell on an unfortunate situation, because they have to be ready for the next call. They have to keep their head on a swivel. They can't sit there and be upset about something while at work because then that'll put their lives in danger.
Right.
But then when they get home, they have to turn that switch off and they have to come home and be husband or be dad, or do come be whatever they need to be at home. And I feel like sometimes us as wives, like, we need to push them more, or spouses, depending on if you get husbands on here. As a spouse, you need to push them to get the therapy and the help that they need, even if they aren't. And it shouldn't, let me back up, not even just for a single call. Put them on, okay, fine, go to therapy once a month,
Hmm.
get have some sort of other outlet beside your coworkers and beside your family. have an outside source that can help you work through these things. And if you really don't want to talk to, you don't want to take the time to find some other therapist, fine. Find one that's provided through work.
Yeah. Have you been able
But
to convince your husband to do that?
not yet, but it is something that I have actively been working on
Mhm.
more recently, just because of like stressors at work. I'm like, I love you and I love being your therapist, but also I stopped taking my psychology classes for a reason.
Mm,
You need to go talk to another therapist. And it's, you can't be a therapist
mm-mm,
to a family member or to a
mm-mm.
close friend. You can be an unofficial therapist, you could be their source to vent to, but you cannot play therapist to somebody you're close with
Right.
because your judgment gets clouded, and that's just something that's hard to do. So I'm trying to get him to go, and with that I'm hoping he'll kind of start telling his coworkers like, "Hey, I've been going to therapy and guess what? It's actually helping." Therapy,
Who
you
would have
know,
thought?
who would have thought? They some of them I've heard them say, "Oh, therapy is for people that are weak." Well, no, but think what you want.
Right.
Therapy is there for a reason. It's there to help you. And just go one time. Go, not even one time. Go like 3 times, and then tell me how you feel about that. Tell
Mhm.
me if it's still for quote unquote weak people.
Yeah. Weakness is not recognizing that you need help.
Yeah, not at all. And that's something I I laugh, I guess, and I shouldn't, but like for me, I laugh when people say, "Oh, let's the therapy is for if you're weak. That's for weak people." Well, okay. Let me know how you feel in 10 years, where you're at
Mhm.
mentally in 10 years,
Right. Right. You're not going
because
to be
that's
strong for very long if you don't address what's going on.
tell me how your problems are. Do you have problems at home now? Why?
Right.
Are you cold? Are you shut down? Have you shut down because you've been running? You're in an area that tends to run ODs all the time, and
Mm,
they have DOAs and everything like that. Okay, well, tell me how you are. If you stay in this area, tell me how you are 10 years from now. Tell me how your relationship is 10 years from now. What's your relationship like with your kids 10 years from now?
right.
Is it still the same as it was 10 years ago? No. It's probably because you've turned into this cold hearted person who bottles up all of their emotions instead of talking them out. And I think that that's something, going to therapy myself, that is something I have realized, is that your relationships with other people and yourself, if you see a therapist, it's going to be so much better.
Mhm.
You will feel better as a person. And I think it tends to, I'm not a very good communicator. I mean, unless you get me on to like, I can rant and rave about things that I've been through, but communication wise, I suck. I used to be terrible. And now, I've been seeing a therapist, and even after probably even like not even a year after I first started seeing her, my communication skills like my husband jokes is like, dang, the worst thing you did was go to therapy because now you can talk. Or now you know how to communicate your problems
Right.
effectively.
Right.
And I was like, well, yeah, I always kind of knew, but
Do you
I don't
kind of
know.
give him some of your things that you've learned in therapy to try for himself?
Yes. And when I say, and I'm going to go back to when I dropped out of, I stopped taking my psychology classes, is because I would use them on him in
Mhm.
his situations. And because I was looking for a while, I was looking into like social work and being a therapist while I was still doing my job, but I can't leave my job. I love my job too much.
Mhm.
I would use them on him, and he'd be like, okay, I get it. you're going to be a good therapist someday. And slowly I'm like, okay, I love this, but I can't do this on you because I'm using my skills on you, and it's probably not effective. But when I talk my skills that I learned in therapy, I'll bring them to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hey, look, this is what I learned because I was talking about, I'm talking about this in therapy, and this was, we talked about doing XYZ. We're talking about, open communication or
Mm-hmm.
saying exactly how you feel, and without being angry, without emotion. And I'll be like, oh, okay. And then sometimes I'll get off of therapy and like, hey, what did you? Because I do therapy over Zoom, and he'll be like, what did you learn at therapy today? What's something new? Like, go find your own
Go to your
therapist.
own therapist, like if you're interested.
Go to your own therapist. If you want to know what therapy is like, go get your own therapist.
Right. Why doesn't he? What's his defense against it? He's worried about looking weak.
I say it's the excuse of his schedule being unpredictable because, yes, he has quote unquote days off, but we actually really never know if those are going to be his days off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he's more of like, well, I don't want to forget that I have therapy and forget to call and change my appointment with my therapist. I was like, well, that's why you get a therapist who knows that you have a chaotic schedule. Be like, hey, can you work with me if I decide, they decide to, you were supposed to be off in the morning, but guess what? You guys got toned out of county 2 hours before you're supposed to be off of work, but 5 minutes before you're supposed to be off work. Then find a therapist that is okay with you canceling literally last minute.
Like a therapist who works with first responders,
Yes, and
which I'm
there
sure
are
there are many of.
plenty. There are plenty of them out there. And that's like my therapist. I'm like, I have the name of someone she recommended because this other therapist works with specifically first responders because
Mm-hmm.
they're okay with the change in schedule. They're
Right.
okay with, oh hey, you got held on, or you got to change these. Okay, fine, no big deal.
Right. Right.
They're out
It's an
there.
excuse. Right.
It is. It's an excuse, and I mean, there can be an excuse to everything, but there's always going to be an answer. There's always going to be a solution.
Right.
There's always a
If you want to find one.
yes.
Right. Right. I mean, I think all the things you're saying are very valid, but at the end of the day, if he doesn't want to find the help yet, you can't force it.
Oh no, because I mean, that wouldn't be productive at all. I mean,
Right.
I had to force my 13-year-old to go to therapy, and that wasn't very productive because he didn't want to
Mm,
talk. He just sat there.
right.
So yeah, they have to want it, but I feel like we shouldn't, I mean, don't hound them and nag them to get help and to seek, I shouldn't say get help, but to go to therapy. But at the same time, hold them accountable,
Mhm.
especially if they say, I am open to therapy, or yes, let's, I'll look into it. Give them a few days, a week or so after they say that. But if they're not on it, hold them accountable for it for sure.
Mhm.
But you can't force them to go. I mean, you
Or
could, but
maybe, yeah, I mean, maybe to take that accountability a step further, you could say, okay, you don't need to go to therapy as long as you're coping and you're handling it well. And the second that they don't, that's when therapy needs to come in.
yeah, for sure. And I even think, again, maybe if they had an appointment once a month, just to
Mhm.
kind of let things out. Because I will say there's sometimes like, whoa, okay, hold on. Spare me some of the details because I understand you need to get it out, but I don't want all of the details. Some of these calls, I understand that they're really hard. There are some hard calls, and I've had long, hard conversations at 2 o'clock in the morning and unable to go back to sleep. And I'm like, okay, this is where you need a therapist,
Yeah.
somebody who is trained and not close to you.
Yeah.
because now I'm going to worry how this is going to affect you.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think it's the same as how like a doctor shouldn't operate on their patient. Excuse me. That makes no sense. A doctor should operate on their patients. I have to say it's the same as how doctors shouldn't, a surgeon shouldn't operate on his or her family member or
Yes.
whatever the case is. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. You're not his therapist. You're his wife. And yes, you can support him, but you're not his therapist.
Right.
And you're not his mom,
No.
like it's right.
It's it's one of those things where it's like we should push them more to seek therapy.
Yeah.
I think they would probably, they don't realize it now, but after going to therapy, then they'll see that it's, oh, okay,
Mhm. It
therapy
is
is
helping.
not a sign of weakness. It's
Right.
actually, it's very, very helpful.
Right. Especially if you find a good therapist for them, in particular, somebody who works with first responders.
Yes.
Right. Right. Well, Megan, I think this has been lovely. We've talked
Yeah.
about a lot of really hard stuff.
Yeah. And I get a little, it's hard to open up about things,
It
especially
is.
essentially publicly open
Yeah.
up about things. So it's a little like, oh, yeah, I just let all that out.
Yeah. But thank
But
you for doing that.
oh, yeah,
You're going to help a lot of people by doing what you just did and talking about what we talked about.
I hope so. I
Mhm.
really do hope so. Because that's, again, and it's one of those things that, again, I stand on this. You're not alone. Like, there's always somebody out there who knows what you're going through. And maybe not exactly, it's never going to be 100%, but you're not alone.
Right.
And it's okay to not be okay.
Of course.
And it's okay to talk about the ugly. It's okay to accept the ugly. So, yeah.
Right. You go into it knowing that there's good and bad.
Yes.
Right. It's not to say normalize cheating. That's
No,
not at
no.
all. But knowing that it's going to be hard in a lot of ways that you might not expect.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I appreciate your openness.
Yeah, it was one of those. It felt good.
Good.
A little awkward, but it felt good.
It didn't feel
So
awkward for me, just so you know.
well,
Probably
good.
felt hard to talk about it, but
Yeah.
I didn't feel like this was awkward at all.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
Just to kind of put it back to you, you're not alone. You're not the first person who's been through this.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I do hope it helps someone, and I
It
do
will.
hope that it helps. Goodness, that it helps others to seek support around them and
Mhm.
to just reach out to those who feel the same way or
Right.
have gone through the same things.
Right. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll be in touch. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you're
All right.
welcome. Yeah,
All
anytime.
right. Thanks.
Bye.
Have a good night. Bye.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed being here as much as I did. If you have any questions for me or if you'd like to be interviewed, please reach out at thefirewivespodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Tune in next week for the next episode of Firewives.